Malachim ask Hashem a question. The angels have a question for God. They say, says you have no favorites, right? However, it says in the blessings of the Kohanim, the priestly blessing, right? May the Lord bless you and keep you, right? It goes on to say, Isa Hashem panav elecha. May the Lord light or face shine on you, right? This is clearly a display of favoritism. So Hashem tells the Malachim, I told them, the Jewish people, to thank me, right? To bless me after they're full, right? The pasuk says, "V'achalta v'savata uveirachta es Hashem alekecha." I will eat, I'll be full, I'll be satiated, and then I'll bless Hashem. Yet the halacha that the Jewish people follow is that even off a bite, a substantial bite, a kazayas, is the bare minimum that you need. If you get a bite, we still bless Hashem. So since they show me this type of favoritism, I'm going to show them the favoritism as well. Okay? So we learn out the first three blessings of benching, right? The blessings after a meal from this pasuk, which comes from our parsha and Parshas Eikev. That I will eat and I'll be satiated and then I'll praise Hashem. Okay? So he says the first three brachas are from Torah. The first three go on this pasuk. But there's a fourth bracha, Hatov v'Hametiv. And this is instituted by the rabbis, the Rabbanim. What happens? The second temple was destroyed in the 1st century of the Common Era. And the Jewish people were given the permission to establish a community in Yavne. And for a while they had their own community there, and they were able to hold off the Romans for a while, but eventually they were defeated from the Bar Kokhba revolt, and it was a massacre. They killed hundreds of thousands of Jews, women, children, old, young, rabbis, sages, priests. It didn't matter. Everybody got it. And they built a vineyard, the Romans, in the land of Israel, and they used these bodies of these Jewish people that they had slain to build a barrier around this vineyard. It was terrible. Burial is very important in Judaism because it allows the body to reabsorb into the world, into the earth, right? And that decomposition allows the body, or the neshama, rather the soul, to elevate back to Hashem. So the decomposition has to happen first. So there was a miracle that 15 years later, the Jewish people were given the permission to take them, the bodies, and bury them, give them a proper burial. And the first miracle was that the bodies hadn't decayed in those 15 years. So the rabbis instituted this fourth bracha. Why did they add it to benching? Why did they add this fourth bracha? If Hashem gave us 3 brachas in the Torah for benching, why not keep it to the 3 brachas? Why did the rabbis institute this fourth one? So the Rebbe goes on to explain that the 3 brachas in benching that we get from Torah, they go on Chesed, Gevurah, and Tiferes, which, when looking at the tree of life, the order of creation and existence involves the influence from God, the pouring down from Hashem, the godly revelation as it pertains to the 3 pillars of Chesed, Gevurah, and Tiferes. Chesed is the idea of unlimited amount of just outpouring. Gevurah is the limitation, the discerning aspect of being able to limit and find measurements, for which to give the outpouring from. And Tiferes is one that's based on interpersonal connection. Right? So the third one is the balance in the middle. So these 3 columns of drawing down godly influence go on these 3 brachas in benching that we got from Torah. So he says, so the Tzemach Tzedek, the third Lubavitcher Rebbe, explains that this idea of these 3 brachas going on the 3 kavin, the 3 pillars of influence from God, is explained that these 3 lead to the 4th, right? He explains it like this. The Merkava, which is a chariot, the whole idea of a chariot is that it doesn't have a mind of its own, right? It does what the person steering it tells it to do. So the chariot of Hashem was related to Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, right? Our forefathers. And these forefathers are the 3 legs of the chariot. And also these 3 legs of the chariot and the 3 avos goes on the 3 brachas in Torah and goes on the 3 brachas, or the 3 kavin in the influence from God. So the 3 legs of the chariot, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, led to the fourth leg, which is David HaMelech. And David HaMelech goes on Malchus, right? The king, goes on kingdom. And this means that the fourth Sphira, which the three Sphira in the Kavin led to, was Malchus, the bottom one, which is where our existence comes from. So the three brachas goes on the three Kavin of Chesed, Gevurah, and Tiferes, and those lead to the bottom Sphira of Malchus, which is the kingdom. And this is an allusion to the fourth bracha coming from the third. Okay? And he explains it even further. He says that according to the Sefer Yetzirah, which is the oldest Kabbalah Sefer, there are three main elements in existence, in creation. Those are fire, water, and wind. Okay? It says later in the Zohar and in Medrash Rabbah and in Rambam that there's a fourth element, which is earth, right? Afar. So he says like this. The Zohar explains this discrepancy. He uses an example. If you were to take a pot of water and you wanted to boil it, so you put it on top of fire, and you stack the wood or you stack the fire in a way that wind was able to keep the fire going, right? The fire needs wind to go. The water will boil, and when the water boils out and the fire goes down and the pot cools, if you touch the inside of the pot, you'll find what looks like afar, looks like dust. So what's explained here is that the three main elements bring out the fourth element. When the three elements engage with one another, they bring out the fourth because they all had the fourth within it. So too by Chesed, Gevurah, and Tiferes, when we look at the system of the spheres and the Seder Shtalshalos, the three pillars of Chesed, Gevurah, and Tiferes, as they engage with one another, they coalesce into a bottom sphera that brings one single column down into Malchus, which is our existence. So the three bring out the fourth. Okay? So now he goes on to explain that this is what is meant by the fourth bracha instituted by the Rabbanim. The Sefer Yetzirah has three Yesodis because these are the three elements that are above the world, that are above earth. The fourth one is earth itself. So the Sefer Yetzirah, being on a high level, a holy level, are only dealing with holy matters. The Torah gave us three brachas because the Torah is a heavenly thing. It came down from heaven and it gave us how the instructions to deal with the physical world. So the spirituality in the Torah give us the rules and the guidelines to engage properly with the earth in order to bring out the fourth, the blessing of the fourth element itself. Right? The fourth bracha in and of itself has its own element of bracha. And this is the whole idea. And this is the entire purpose of this world. The purpose of the creation in the heavens and everything was to come down into this physical world and to elevate this physical world to make it a place for Hashem. So when we engage in the physical world by eating, when we eat, we say a bracha. And what's a bracha? It says in the Gemara that somebody grows crops. One of the ways to grow crops is called mavrech. When a person is mavrech, they bring down a vine of something that's already growing. They bring that down and they cultivate it into its own plant. It then grows a new plant from what they drew down. So this is the idea of a bracha. When we say a bracha, we're drawing down, we are being mavrech, this level of God, into ourselves, and then we are giving ourselves the ability to elevate our piece of the physical world through this godly revelation that we draw down into ourselves. Right? I've mentioned before that when a person used to say a bracha and do a mitzvah, that everyone in attendance had to rise because Hashem was in that person. So we draw down this godly revelation into ourselves and elevate the world around us. Right? So this is why. So why a kazayas? Because the godly revelation is unlimited. But this world is a limited world. So Hashem said, bench when you're full. But we said, no, we're going to bench on the bare minimum. But there needs to be a minimum. A mashahu is not enough to bench on. A taste is not enough because it's not a substantial measurement. The smallest substantial measurement is a kazayas. So we bench when we've had a kazayas because we're drawing down this unlimited godly revelation and we're bringing it down into a world of limitation. So we bench when we eat the bare minimum measurement, which is a kazayas. Kazayas means like an olive. So the size of an olive, just a substantial bite, is enough to bench and to praise Hashem. And this is why Hashem favors us, is because we bench and we show gratitude when we just have a bite. And even deeper, we're using this whole inyan as a way of bringing godliness down into this world to elevate it for a place for Hashem. And it says that the bracha of Isa Hashem panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom, it ends with the inyan of peace, of bringing down peace, that Hashem will grant us peace. And it says that peace is the ultimate bracha. Peace is the ultimate blessing, because with peace, all the other blessings are included. Including, the Rebbe finishes with the final bracha of the bringing of Mashiach, which should happen speedily in our days.